The thing is, I knew exactly how to make people laugh. Of course, that sounds ugly now because the room shifted against me later. But back then, I believed a good surprise could fix any dead space. So when I put a giant tarantula inside my husband's birthday gift box, I told myself it was only a joke. Then Owen opened it, looked at me once and said one sentence nobody laughed at. My name is Delaney Brooks. I am 34, and I manage event experiences for people who pay to feel surprised without losing control. The thing is, I was good at making a room behave. Of course, that sounded like talent when clients said it, not fear dressed in heels. I knew where to place candles so people looked warmer. I knew when to lower music so a speech felt important. I knew when a joke needed one more second before the laugh came. Owen used to say I could hear a room breathe. He meant it kindly. My husband meant most things kindly, which was part of the problem later, because kindness can start to feel like a small chair you are expected to sit in. Before it went bad, there were good things. Owen brought coffee before every major event and wrote the event name on the cup in black marker. Winter Gala, Donor Lunch, Mercer Anniversary. He never forgot. On Sundays, we ate pancakes on the floor and planned fake vacations with money we did not have. He wanted Iceland. I wanted Greece. We never booked anything, but the pretending felt like a language. Then his father got sick, and Owen started moving through life like every room had a leak only he could hear. He fixed things. He drove people. He paid bills early. He did not talk much. The timing of our marriage changed, but nobody announced it. At my office 3 weeks before his birthday, he brought dinner because I had skipped lunch. Priya said he was sweet. Grant said some men made helpful look like a medical condition. Mira laughed first, so I laughed too. Owen heard it. He did not correct anyone. He waited until we were in the parking garage, where the air smelled like tires and old rain, and asked if something had changed between us. I told him nothing had changed, and that he was asking a heavy question at the end of a long day. He said he only missed when I liked him in front of people. Of course, that made me feel accused. I told him he was being dramatic. The room shifted, even though there was no room, only concrete pillars and his hand holding a paper bag of cold noodles. That night, he left a birthday invitation draft on the counter. It said dinner with family, small table, no fuss. I looked at it and thought how sad it sounded. The exotic pet shop smelled like warm dust, dry wood, and something alive behind glass. The thing is, I did not walk in there thinking I was cruel. I walked in thinking I was saving my husband from becoming the sort of man people forgot while he was still sitting in front of them. Owen wanted a quiet dinner. He had said that twice. First at the counter with his hand on the invitation draft, then again while folding laundry in our bedroom. He told me he did not need a party this year. He said his father was tired, work was heavy, and he wanted one night without being watched. I heard that as another request to shrink. Of course, I told him I understood. I even touched his shoulder when I said it, because that was what a good wife did when she was planning around the truth. Then I booked a private birthday room with black marble tables, warm lights, and enough space for 24 people. The timing looked perfect on paper. Drinks at 7, food at 7:30, cake at 8:15, final gift at 8:25, laugh at 8:26, recovery at 8:28, photos by 8:30. I could see it before it happened, and that was always when I trusted myself most. Mira was with me at the pet shop. She wore sunglasses indoors because she had done that since college when she wanted a day to feel larger than it was. She asked if Owen still had the spider thing. I told her he did, but not like a child. More like a man who could inspect a bridge plan for 6 hours but could not remove a spider from the shower. Mira said that was exactly why it would work. The handler showed us a large tarantula in a clear container. He explained that the animal would remain sealed and safe, that nobody should shake the box, that the spider was fragile in its own way. I nodded like I was listening to the safety part. What stayed with me was how slow the legs moved against the plastic, how the sight made even Mira step back once before laughing. I remembered Owen telling me the story years earlier. He had been 8, on a camping trip with cousins, and woke to something moving across his face. The older boys laughed because he screamed. His uncle told him to toughen up. He told me that story in bed one night, with the lights off, like darkness made it easier to hand over small humiliations. He trusted me with it. The thing is, trust can feel heavy when you already feel unseen. It asks you to protect something without applause. I was tired of being the keeper of quiet things. Mira asked if I was sure, not because she thought it was wrong, because she wanted me to say it out loud. I said Owen needed to learn that being teased did not mean being attacked. Mira smiled and told me the room would love it. Grant loved it before he even saw it. At work, he leaned against my desk and said a live birthday reveal would make everyone talk. He did not call it content, not directly, but Grant lived like every private moment was waiting for better lighting. He asked if he could film the big gift for memories. I told him to be subtle. That was my first active lie, even before Owen asked me anything. I did not tell my husband about the guest list. I did not tell him Grant would be near the cake with his phone. I did not tell him I had ordered a red ribbon wide enough to look expensive on camera. 2 nights before the party, we went to dinner with Priya and her husband. Owen was quiet, but not cold. He asked Priya about her mother. He remembered her husband had changed jobs. He did all the things people later forgot when they decided he was only awkward. I made a joke when a small bug crossed near the table outside. I said Owen might need an emergency exit plan if it had too many legs. Priya smiled, then looked at Owen. Her husband laughed once and stopped. The room shifted in that small way rooms do when a joke lands but does not settle. On the drive home, Owen kept both hands on the wheel and asked why I had said that. His voice was specific and factual. He named the dinner, the bug, the line about too many legs. He asked what happened to make me use something he had told me privately. I said it was not that deep. He said he had not said it was deep. He said he was asking why it was public. That annoyed me more. It sounded controlled, like he had measured his hurt and found it valid. I told him he was turning one joke into a marriage problem, and he went quiet for the last 7 minutes of the drive. Tessa heard about the party plan in the group chat because Mira sent a spider emoji and Grant sent a blurred photo of the gift box. Tessa wrote that maybe Owen would not like that kind of surprise. Nobody answered her for 4 minutes. Then Mira wrote that birthdays needed personality. Tessa did not push again. Eleni did. Owen's sister messaged me the next morning. She asked what I was planning for her brother, not what the party theme was, not what gift I had bought, what I was planning for him. Of course, I told myself she had never fully liked me. Sisters can turn concern into ownership if nobody stops them. I replied that it was a harmless surprise and that Owen deserved to laugh at himself. She wrote back that Owen already laughed at himself plenty when he felt safe. I put the phone face down. The timing of her message felt rude because I was reviewing the seating chart. I placed Eleni near Samir, Owen's father, far enough from Mira that the energy would not clash. I put Grant near the best angle for filming. I put myself beside Owen, where a wife belonged when she was about to make everyone look at him. That night, Owen asked again if it was just dinner. He stood near the hallway closet, loosening his tie, his face tired in a way that made him look older than 37. He said he did not want a big thing. I told him the thing was already handled. I said he should trust me. He looked at me for a long second. Then he nodded, and that nod should have made me stop. Instead, I treated it like permission. The private birthday room looked exactly how I had pictured it. The thing is, when a room follows your plan, it can feel like proof that your reasons were clean. Of course, the room shifted later, but at 7 that night, everything obeyed me. Black marble tables, low amber lights, white plates, gold napkins, a cake with simple lettering because Owen hated anything too cute. The red-ribboned gift box waited on a side table behind the candles, ordinary if you did not know what breathed inside the clear container within it. Owen arrived in a navy shirt I had chosen years ago. He looked surprised by the number of people, but he smiled because people were watching. That was one of his habits. He protected the room first, himself second. I used to love that. Lately, it made me want to shake him. He thanked everyone for coming. He told Samir to sit before his knee started hurting. He hugged Eleni and she held him longer than usual. When she looked at me over his shoulder, her face did not accuse me. It was worse. It waited. Mira came to my side and said the place looked perfect. Grant lifted his phone, checked the light, then lowered it when I looked at him. Tessa stood near Priya and kept touching the stem of her glass without drinking. I saw all of it and still thought the timing was mine. Normal gifts came first. A book from Priya, a sweater from Tessa, a set of drafting pencils from Samir because Owen still sketched bridges by hand when he was thinking. Owen smiled at each one. He was not exciting, but he was gentle with other people's effort. Then I brought out the final box. The room made a small sound because people like a last gift. They lean toward it. They trust the person holding it. I said this one was personal. I said my husband had spent too many years being serious, and I wanted to give him something unforgettable. Owen looked up at me. There was trust on his face first. That is the part I hate remembering, though hate is not the right word. It is present tense. It stays. He touched the red ribbon. He smiled a little, as if the ribbon itself pleased him because he knew I had chosen it. He pulled one end loose. The satin moved across the lid without a sound. Someone behind him said to take a picture. Grant's phone rose. Owen opened the outer box. Inside was the clear container with the tarantula. The handler had done exactly what I asked. Safe. Sealed. Visible. For 1 second, nobody laughed. There was only the dry, clicking sound of the inner lid settling after the movement and the slow, dark shape inside. Then Owen's chair scraped back hard enough to hit the wall. His hand went to the table, not dramatic, just fast, trying to find something steady. I laughed because I had to lead the room. Mira laughed with me. Grant made a sound behind his phone. A couple of co-workers laughed because laughter is easier than deciding what kind of moment you are in. Then Eleni said Owen's name. Not loudly, not with a scene, just his name, low and sharp. The room shifted. The event language would be that the energy broke. The human language is worse. People began understanding at different speeds. Owen stared at the box. His face had lost colour around his mouth. He was breathing through his nose, slow, like he was counting without wanting anyone to see. He looked at Grant's phone. He looked at Mira. Then he looked at me. I told him it was safe. I said the handler was nearby and that he was fine. I said everyone knew he hated spiders, so it was funny. He did not answer that. He reached forward with both hands and closed the outer lid over the clear container. His fingers were careful. He protected the spider before he protected me. Someone near the bar stopped laughing. Owen told me he understood now that I had not forgotten what scared him. He said I remembered perfectly and used it. No raised voice, no insult, no broken glass. The quiet was the point. I heard performance. I heard him choosing the most serious possible reaction because seriousness was where he always ran when people were looking. Of course, I told myself he was punishing me in front of my own guests. The timing had gone wrong, that was all. A joke needed recovery and he refused to give me recovery. I tried to touch his arm. He moved back, not fast, just enough. That small space between my hand and his sleeve did more damage than if he had shouted. Samir asked what was in the box. Eleni told him not to look. Tessa put her glass down and walked toward the bathroom. Priya whispered something to her husband, and they both looked away from Grant. Grant lowered his phone, but not all the way. Owen thanked the handler for keeping the animal safe. That was what he said next. Not to me. To the stranger near the service door. Then he walked out without the cake, without the cards, without the gifts, lined in polite paper bags. The room did not know who to follow. That was the first real failure of my life as an event manager. I had built a moment with no exit plan. Mira came close and said he was overreacting, but her voice had lost its sparkle. Grant asked under his breath if he should stop recording. I told him of course he should stop because now everyone wanted me to be the villain of my own husband's birthday. Eleni followed Owen. Samir tried to stand too fast and Priya helped him. Tessa returned from the bathroom with wet hands and no expression. The black marble tables reflected the candles like small fires that had nothing to burn. I went into the hallway after Owen because I still believed I could manage the landing. He stood near the venue's coat rack under a buzzing ceiling light. His shoulders were straight. That made me angry, because I wanted him messy enough to blame. I told him I was sorry if the joke embarrassed him. He asked if that was the sentence I wanted to use. I told him he knew what I meant. He said he knew exactly what I meant now. Then he asked Grant, who had appeared behind me like a man arriving late to his own courage, to send him the full video. Grant blinked and said he could, if everyone was okay with that. Owen said it was his birthday. He wanted the memory. Nobody laughed at that either. The apartment smelled like cold coffee and the lemon cleaner Owen used when he needed his hands busy. The thing is, people think a fight after a public scene is loud. Ours was tidy. Of course, that made it harder to treat like a normal marriage problem. The birthday cards were stacked on the dining table, unopened. The paper bags sat near the wall, arranged by size. The red ribbon from the Tarantula box lay beside the cake knife I had brought home without thinking. Everything looked like an event after the guests leave, when the room has told the truth and the staff has to clean around it. Owen was in the kitchen, washing a mug that was already clean. I said the party got out of hand. That was my controlled empathy. I had planned it while brushing my teeth, while changing shirts, while watching him move through the apartment without asking where I had slept. I would admit the event had gone wrong without admitting the design was wrong. Owen dried the mug and placed it in the cabinet. He told me the party did exactly what I built it to do. I said that was unfair. He turned then, and the quiet on his face was not empty. It was organized. He said it was not only the spider. He named the pattern. The jokes about him being dull. The jokes about him needing instructions to be fun. The dinner with Priya. The comments about his fear. The way I made people look at him, then blamed him for reacting. The room shifted again, but this time there were no guests to absorb it. I told him he had stopped making me feel chosen. I told him I had spent months standing beside a husband who treated me like another task on his list. I said he fixed his father's appointments, the car insurance, the sink, the bills, and then looked confused when I wanted a person instead of a service. He did not argue. That was almost worse. He said he knew he had gone quiet. He said he did not know how to reach me without being corrected for the tone, the timing, or the size of the effort. He said he started doing useful things because words seemed to make me colder. There it was. A real opening. A small one. He had failed me in a way I could name. I had been lonely inside a marriage that still looked efficient from the outside. Of course I did not stay there. I said he was making himself the victim because one birthday joke did not land. He looked down at his hands. They were red from hot water. He looked sad in a plain way. Not strategic, not rehearsed. I should have known that kind of sadness was not weakness. Instead, I heard an advantage. He walked to the dining table and picked up the birthday cards. One from Samir, one from Eleni, one from Tessa, a few from work people who would never send another. He carried them to the bedroom. I followed him because silence feels like losing when you built your whole life on keeping rooms active. He opened the drawer by his side of the bed and placed the cards inside without reading them. That was the trigger. The small, flat sound of paper against wood. Not the party, not the spider, not Eleni's face. The cards. For a moment the door opened. I saw the red ribbon on the table. I saw his hand touching it before he knew what was inside. I saw his face when he still thought personal meant loved. Something in my chest became still, not soft, not sorry, just still enough to show me the shape of what I had done. I had taken a private fear he gave me in the dark and turned it into a centerpiece under rented lights. The thing is, stillness never felt safe to me. I closed the drawer in my mind before he closed it with his hand. I told myself he was punishing everyone by refusing to read their cards. I told myself he wanted me crawling after him. I told myself a grown man should handle being teased. Then Owen shut the drawer. The sound was small. The effect was not. Eleni texted while I stood in the bedroom doorway. She wrote that I was not welcome at family dinner. No insult, no long message, just a closed gate. I called her. She did not answer. I sent a message saying she had not seen the whole thing. She replied that she had seen enough. Mira responded slower that day. I sent her a photo of the untouched cards and wrote that Owen was turning the party into a funeral. She answered 20 minutes later with a sad face and nothing else. Grant sent a separate message asking if Owen was seriously upset or just doing the quiet husband thing. I laughed when I read it, but the laugh had nowhere to go. Tessa left the group chat before noon. Priya sent one work email about a client schedule and did not mention the party. Samir called Owen, not me. By evening, Owen moved to the guest room. He carried 2 folded shirts, his charger, and the old grey blanket he used on the couch during winter. No speech, no announcement, just the logistics of distance. I stood in the hallway and asked if we were really doing this. He said he was not sure what this was anymore. That made me angry because it sounded honest. Later, from behind the closed guest room door, I heard the printer start. 1 page, then another, then several more. The sound was dry and steady, like the Tarantula box lid. I told myself he was printing work plans, maybe bridge drawings, maybe something for his father. The timing felt too theatrical for anything else, and Owen hated theatre. Still, I did not sleep much. The cafe near my office had brass lamps and tiny tables that made every conversation look more intimate than it was. The thing is, I went there wanting strategy, not comfort. Of course, when Mira arrived late and kept her coat on, the room shifted before she even sat down. She hugged me with one arm. That was new. Mira used to arrive like a weather system, loud bag, loud laugh, loud opinions before coffee. This time, she ordered tea and asked how Owen was. I said Owen was performing injury like a full-time job. Mira looked at the table. She said maybe he had been hurt. She said maybe everyone needed a few days. I heard betrayal in the word everyone. It meant she had started standing outside the circle, watching me from there. I told her she had laughed too. She said she knew. Then she stirred tea she had not sweetened and said that was why she felt strange about it. That changed the air between us. Not a fight. Worse. A new politeness. Grant messaged while Mira and I sat there. He said the video had moved through a few private chats and that people were asking whether Owen was always that serious. Then he sent another message telling me not to tag him in anything because his employer followed his profile. Agenda, I would call it now. At the time, I called it nerves. I opened my own profile. My thumb hovered over the screen while Mira watched. The thing is, I had built a career on knowing that the first version people hear becomes the frame. If I did not explain the party, Eleni would. If Eleni explained it, Owen would become the wounded saint and I would become the woman with the box. So I wrote a post. I did not name my husband. I did not need to. I wrote that some people could not take a joke even on their birthday. I wrote that marriage became exhausting when one person demanded constant emotional management. I wrote that I believed adults should be able to laugh at themselves. Mira said maybe I should wait. I said waiting was how people like Owen won. Quiet men always looked noble because they made everyone else sound loud. She did not agree. She did not stop me either. I posted it. For the first minute, nothing happened. Then 2 people liked it. One was Grant. One was a vendor from work who liked everything. No comment from Priya. No message from Tessa. No laughing face from Mira, even though she sat across from me. Owen called once. I let it ring until the last second, then answered because ignoring him would have looked afraid even though nobody could see me. He asked if I was willing to sit with a mediator. His voice was clean. Not warm, not cold. Clean. He said he needed one thing first. He needed me to admit the party had been planned to embarrass him. The cafe noise thinned around me. A spoon tapped porcelain behind the counter. Mira looked out the window like she had no place in the scene anymore. I told Owen he had left me alone inside the marriage long before I made everyone look at him. There, the one true thing. He could not refute it, and he did not try. He stayed silent long enough that I checked the call to see if it had dropped. Then he said truth used as a weapon was still a weapon. Of course, I heard that as a line he had prepared to sound better than me. The timing of his calm felt insulting. I told him I would sit with a mediator when he apologized for humiliating me by walking out in front of our guests. He said he had walked out because staying would have taught me I could do it again. I said he was making himself sound brave for leaving his own birthday party. He said he would handle things properly now. That sentence had no volume, no threat, no named plan. Still, Mira looked back from the window. She heard it too, whatever it was. I told him to enjoy being proper. Then I ended the call. Mira said my name, but softly, like she was testing whether she still had permission. I said the thing was done now. She asked if that was what I wanted. I told her I wanted my husband to stop acting like I had invented cruelty because one joke went badly. Mira said Owen had trusted me with the spider story. She said it was hard to get around that. The room shifted again. I put money on the table, too much for tea and one untouched pastry, and left before she could say another careful thing. At work, the post did not behave the way I needed it to. A few people liked it, but nobody I needed. Priya passed my desk and asked only about a client revision. Grant came by once and said people were being too serious, but he stood in the walkway, not inside my office. Eleni screenshot the post. I knew because Owen did not answer my next message, but Eleni sent one line. She told me to stop making him defend private pain in public. I wrote back that private pain had not stopped him from making me lonely. She did not respond. That night, I sent Mira 3 messages. One said I needed her to tell me I was not insane. One said she knew Owen could be impossible. One said I hated how everyone was acting like I had planned a crime instead of a bad surprise. Hours later, she reacted with one heart. That was all. The enabler's absence was not dramatic. It was a blank space where noise used to be. When I came home, Owen was already there. He had no anger in his face. That bothered me more than anger would have. He was sitting at the dining table with a folder under his arm, the red ribbon coiled beside his phone like something he had not decided whether to throw away. I asked if he was going to lecture me with office supplies now. He said no. He said he had said what he needed to say. I told him silence was his favourite weapon. I told him he got to disappear emotionally, then punish me for reacting loudly enough for people to hear. I told him I was tired of being married to a man who made me beg for warmth, then judged the shape of the fire. He listened. That was the worst part. Worst. Owen listened like he was putting each sentence somewhere it belonged. Then he stood, picked up the folder, and moved it to the guest room. No slammed door, no final speech, no proof shown to me, just a man becoming logistical while I became louder in the hallway. The thing is, I still thought volume could bring him back into the room. He closed the guest room door with care. The mediation office had beige walls, a glass water pitcher, and chairs too light to feel permanent. The thing is, I arrived ready to discuss my marriage, not receive paperwork. Of course, the room shifted when I saw Eleni sitting beside my husband. Owen did not look at me first. He looked at the mediator, then at the folder on the table. Eleni's hands were folded in her lap. She did not look victorious. That annoyed me because it gave me nothing to push against. The mediator greeted me by my full name. Delaney Brooks. Not Delaney. Not Mrs. Haddad. Full name, clean and neutral. 10 minutes in, a man entered with an envelope. I signed where he pointed because everyone watched my hand and I wanted it steady. The envelope felt thick. I placed it on the table, opened it, and read the heading twice. Formal petition for dissolution of marriage with temporary financial orders. The first hearing was scheduled for the following month. The petition requested temporary exclusive use of the apartment for Owen until property matters were reviewed. Attached pages included screenshots of my post, Grant's story, the party plan, messages about Owen's spider fear, and photos of the red-ribboned box. No miracle evidence, no secret trap. Only my timing, my room, my words. I said it had been a joke. I said Owen had made it look worse by leaving. The mediator asked if I knew about the fear before planning the gift. I answered too quickly. Then I folded the paper along an edge that was already straight. Owen said he trusted me with that story because he thought private things were safe with his wife. The thing is, there was no room left to manage after that. Of course, I still looked toward the hallway once, as if Mira might arrive late and loud and make the air mine again. She was not there. Grant texted during the meeting. He said he had deleted the video and could not be part of marriage stuff. Then his name disappeared from my active messages. After the meeting, Owen stood first. He removed his wedding ring, placed it beside the red ribbon from the gift box, and left with Eleni before I could decide what face to use. I moved into a short-term furnished studio above a nail salon because Owen was granted temporary exclusive use of the apartment. My personal spending went under review because the party costs had come from a joint account after he asked for a quiet dinner. Tessa stopped answering, Priya became work only, and Eleni told relatives not to discuss Owen with me. Grant deleted every tag, denied planning the prank, and blocked me after one final message. My director removed me from birthday and anniversary events for the next quarter. The thing is, I built my life around knowing how a room would react. Of course, I thought laughter made me safe from pity. I thought control meant nobody could leave me in front of a table full of people. But Owen stopped being the punchline, and the room kept looking at me. The red ribbons stayed on the mediator's table after he left. That was the first quiet room I could not fix.